Instant karma. No warning, no mercy, just a stopwatch. And Robert McCall. Across 3 films, from Boston to Sicily, Robert McCall shows us what instant karma truly looks like. These are his most brutal revenge moments from the Equalizer 1, 2, and 3. One of cinema's most precise opening executions was delivered in The Equalizer, 2014, when Russian mobsters underestimated Robert McCall. Slavy and his crew had been trafficking Eastern European women for years, operating with impunity until they harassed Terry, a waitress who was McCall's friend. Did you see McCall's transformation when Slavy poured himself a drink without permission? It was chilling. His breathing slowed to a combat-ready rhythm, fingers flexing once before stilling. The stopwatch click echoed through the suddenly silent diner as McCall's eyes darted across the room. He scanned the room with surgical focus. The corkscrew, the reflection in the dessert case, the faint glint of metal beneath the counter. Slavy barely had time to reach for his drink before his hand was pinned to the table with the corkscrew. A flash of broken glass tore across the second thug's throat as he lunged forward, gurgling before he hit the floor. McCall then spared the best for last as he blasted the final mobster with a shotgun at point blank, leading to his death, before resetting his stopwatch exactly 28 seconds later. In The Equalizer 2, Robert McCall didn't just seek revenge, he delivered justice wrapped in a hurricane. When corrupt CIA agents murdered his close friend Susan, McCall lured them to a remote seaside town just as a Category 4 storm was about to hit. The battleground? His own childhood neighborhood, now deserted and battered by wind and rain. One by one, he picked off the agents using home field advantage and tactical brilliance. He used rooftops to gain the high ground, set traps inside abandoned houses, and moved like a ghost through the storm. The final showdown happened in a watchtower where McCall confronted his former teammate turned traitor, Dave York. The fight was brutal. Fists, knives, and the fury of a storm crashing all around them. In the end, McCall threw York from the top of the tower to the rocks below, making sure justice had the final word. No safe house, no explosions, just McCall, nature, and cold retribution. Justice came to breakfast in a quiet corner diner in The Equalizer 2, 2018, when McCall slid into a booth across from 2 crooked Boston cops. These men had been extorting a local store owner, threatening his family while flashing badges they didn't deserve. McCall didn't raise his voice. He didn't even finish his tea. Instead, he laid a folder on the table, full of surveillance photos, bank records, and damning receipts. Their smirks faltered, but they still leaned on their false power. One laughed. The other reached for his weapon. McCall struck like lightning. A coffee cup shattered, a head slammed into Formica, and a firearm was disarmed mid-motion. Before either man could speak, one was bleeding from the face and the other begging not to join him. "You're gonna give back what you took," McCall said quietly, "and you're gonna walk out of here like nothing ever happened." That was the moment they realized that karma had been sitting across from them the whole time, wearing a calm expression and sipping tea. In The Equalizer 2, 2018, a luxury high-rise apartment became a punishment chamber in under 2 minutes. The man inside had beaten his girlfriend so badly she was afraid to leave. He thought the building's keycard locks and skyline view made him untouchable. Until McCall showed up. The door clicked shut, not slammed. The furniture barely shifted. But the shift in power was unmistakable. One punch cracked a rib, and another collapsed a knee. A table shattered under the weight of consequences. The man didn't even have time to reach for his phone. He was flung across the room, gasping for breath, realizing too late that the stranger in front of him wasn't angry. He was prepared. No screaming, no speech, just pressure applied with mechanical efficiency. When it was over, the silence in the apartment was deafening. McCall didn't wait for gratitude or applause. He left the man broken on his floor, surrounded by the same furniture he'd once used to intimidate. Justice didn't knock. It walked in and rearranged the room. The opening of the Equalizer 3, 2023, doesn't ease you in, it drops you straight into retribution. A Sicilian vineyard, drenched in wealth and violence, becomes a crime scene before the credits even roll. McCall had been shot and left for dead by the local mob, but they failed to finish the job. He returned not with backup, but with a blade and a plan. Guards lounged in the estate's kitchen, laughing over their latest victims. One by one, they vanished. A slit throat in the wine cellar, a shotgun blast in the hall. Blood sprayed across vintage casks and priceless tile. The final thug ran, scrambling up the stone tower at the edge of the property, breath ragged with fear. McCall followed at a measured pace, every step deliberate. At the top, the man begged for mercy. He didn't get it. A single bullet sent him crashing through the trellis below, vines snapping like twigs. In this vineyard, karma wasn't aged. It came fresh, fast, and fatal. One of the fastest doses of street justice came in the Equalizer 2, 2018, during what looked like a simple late-night Lyft ride. A young woman climbed into the back seat, clearly shaken. Moments later, a slick, overconfident man joined her, acting like he owned the car, and her. McCall, behind the wheel, said nothing. He watched. The man leaned in too close, whispered something disgusting, and let his hand wander. The tires screeched, the car jerked to a stop, and the predator was dragged out into the street. In the space of 30 seconds, entitlement turned into agony. Ribs met steel. A jaw met concrete. McCall didn't offer a lecture. He let gravity and impact speak. The man who'd strutted into that car left it on his back, bleeding and broken, his designer coat torn and his ego shattered. No drama, no delay. Just a man caught in the act and punished in the exact moment he made his choice. Karma doesn't call ahead when McCall's driving. It just arrives. In The Equalizer, 2014, justice came hard and fast inside a grimy pawn shop run by a sleazy owner whose business extended far beyond stolen electronics. Hidden behind the counter, among cash drawers and broken watches, were photographs. Young, vulnerable girls reduced to commodities. He laughed in McCall's face when questioned, unaware that his last smug grin was already behind him. Without a word, McCall calmly walked behind the counter and locked the door. The shift was immediate. A hammer swung into a jaw. Glass displays exploded. Fingers bent the wrong way. Screams replaced swagger. McCall didn't waste emotion. He dismantled the man's body with surgical efficiency, leaving him whimpering on the floor surrounded by the tools of his trade. There was no crowd, no applause, just silence and shame. When McCall left, the door swung gently shut, but the message was thunderous. Justice didn't need courtrooms. It needed timing, accuracy, and a pawn shop full of regret. Luxury can't cushion a fall, and in The Equalizer 3, 2023, a sadistic kingpin learned that the hard way atop his cliffside penthouse overlooking the Amalfi Coast. This man had ordered the deaths of innocent people, threatened women, and waved his wealth like armor. He expected a negotiation when McCall entered. What he got was a countdown. Within seconds, McCall had a pistol pressed to his temple and one of the man's own henchmen incapacitated on the floor. The room's elegance didn't soften the violence. A champagne bottle shattered against bone. A bone broke against marble. When the man tried to run, McCall drove him through a glass table. Blood soaked the velvet carpet. No monologue, no mercy. Just a direct line between guilt and consequence. The penthouse view looked out over paradise, but the floor was now hell. McCall didn't linger for questions or screams. He simply turned, left the door swinging, and disappeared into the night. Karma, in this case, didn't climb the stairs. It took the express elevator. Instant justice, delivered with precision, no warnings, no second chances. McCall doesn't wait for applause, just the tick of a clock that never misses.